Okay, book 19 of the Odyssey. Odysseus' plan is working very well. He tells his son Telemachus to put the weapons in the storage room. Remember, he said to give two reasons. Because of the smoke and the grime, it might get the soot onto the weapons. And he also said, hey, when the suitors are drunk, they might hurt each other if they have their weapons around. So uh, Telemachus tells Eurycleia, the loyal nursemaid, if you recall, to lock all the female servants in the upstairs rooms. Athena provides light in the main palace, room for them to move the weapons. She is a good teammate. Good teammates do whatever it takes to help people out. They get water on the bench. Uh, they make the play. They're humble. Athena is a good teammate. She holds the light for them. Now, Penelope is about to question Odysseus in disguise. Uh, he comes up. Remember, he didn't want to come up and talk to her while all the suitors were around because he was afraid that they would be very angry with him. So he goes up at night when the suitors have been drinking, they're distracted, and when he goes upstairs to talk to Penelope in her rooms, there we meet Melantho. She's an evil maidservant, and she goes hand in hand with Melanthius, who is the evil goat herder. And you can see Mel in the front of each name, so that means bad. So she taunts Odysseus the beggar, and Odysseus scolds her, and Penelope does too. They yell at her and say, you shouldn't talk to people that way. And that's lines 77 to 104. They say, he says, what's wrong with you, woman? Are you mean to me because I'm dirty and dressed in rags and beg through the land? I do it because I have to. That's how it is with beggars and vagabonds. And he says, I used to be rich at one point, and I was on a ship, and Zeus crushed me. Who knows why? So be careful, woman. Someday you may lose that glowing beauty that makes you stand out now, or your mistress may become fed up with you, or Odysseus may come home. We can still hope for that. But even if, as seems likely, he is dead and will never return, his son Telemachus is now very much like him by Apollo's grace. And if any of the women are behaving loosely, it won't go by him. He's no longer a child, as we know. He's grown up a bit. So that's good. Uh, and Penelope also yells at her. Now, Odysseus tests Penelope to make sure that she still loves him. Remember, this was Agamemnon's advice in the underworld. And she, of course, says to this beggar, who she may or may not know as Odysseus, lines 135 to 148, she says to Odysseus the beggar, stranger, the gods destroyed my beauty on the day when the Argives sailed for Ilion, and with them went my husband Odysseus. If he were to come back and be a part of my life, my fame would be greater and more resplendent so. She is very famous. We are talking about her. People still name their daughters Penelope. But now I ache. So many sorrows has some spirit showered upon me. All of the nobles who ruled the islands, Dulichium, Same, and wooded Zacynthos, and all those with power on rocky Ithaca are courting me and ruining my house. So I pay no attention to strangers, or to suppliants, or public heralds. No, I just waste away with longing for Odysseus. My suitors press on, and I weave my wiles. First, some god breathed into me the thought of setting up a great loom, and I started weaving a vast fabric with a very fine thread. This is the loom trick. She's telling Odysseus about how she's put the suitors off and tried to bide time until he returns. So she tells the whole story, and Odysseus knows that she loves him. And she's very intelligent and tricky, just like he is. This is a good match, husband and wife. She is ingenious. Odysseus explains his fake history. Remember, he's from Crete, etc. He tells his whole story to Penelope, and he gives his name as Aethon. He says he met Odysseus when Odysseus had first set out for Troy. And Penelope wants proof. She says, what was Odysseus wearing when he left 20 years ago? And Odysseus the beggar says that it was a purple cloak that was clasped with a special gold brooch, which is brooch, B-R-O-O-C-H. which is like a clasp or a pin. And that was a very special brooch. It was a hound grabbing a baby deer, and it had it around the neck. Penelope knows this is what Odysseus was wearing when he left. She's very impressed. And the disguised Odysseus says that Odysseus is close by because he heard rumors. Let me describe that brooch, though. He says, Odysseus wore a fleecy purple cloak folded over and had it a brooch with a double clasp, fashioned of gold, and on the front was an intricate design, a hound holding in his forepaws a dappled fawn that writhed to get free. This is like Odysseus and the suitors. He is in control. Suitors just don't know it yet, right? Lines 330 to 338, we see the prophecy from Odysseus that he tells to Penelope. He says, Odysseus, he said, had gone to Dodona to consult the oak tree oracle of Zeus and ask how he should return to Ithaca, openly or in secret, after being gone so long. So he is safe and will come soon, Penelope. He is very near and will not be away long from his dear ones and his native land. I will swear to this. Now Zeus on high be my witness, and this hospitable table and the hearth of flawless Odysseus himself, that everything will happen just as I say. Before this month is out, Odysseus will come in the dark of the moon before the new crescent. So he prophesies that Odysseus is on his way home. Now the big question in this book is, does Penelope know that this is her husband that she's actually talking to? Does she know? She tells Eurycleia to, quote, wash her master's feet, and then she interrupts herself and she says, that is, wash the feet of this man who is your master's age. Lines 384 to 391. So she says, I do have an old and trustworthy woman here. She's talking about Eurycleia, the loyal nursemaid, who nursed and raised my ill-starred husband, taking him in her arms the day he was born. She will wash your feet, beggar Odysseus, frail as she is. And then she says, Eurycleia, rise and wash your master's feet, that is, wash the feet of this man who is your master's age. Does she know? Odysseus's feet and hands are no doubt like his now, for men age quickly when life is hard. So it's debatable whether she knows or not. Now, the big thing is Eurycleia goes to wash his feet and notices a scar on Odysseus's thigh that he got hunting with his grandfather Autolycus while they were hunting boars. This is very dangerous. Boars' tusks are very long, and they're wild, and they attack, and they gash, and they kill, and they'll eat anything. So while they're hunting, when Odysseus was a very, very young man, I think 10 years old, with his grandfather Autolycus, this is what happened. And she notices this scar and instantly knows that it's Odysseus. So the old woman took the shining basin she used for washing feet, poured cold water. She sees the scar. It flashed through his mind that his old nurse would notice his scar as soon as she touched him, and that everything would be out in the open. She drew near and started to wash her master. She knew at once from the scar, from the wound he had gotten long ago from a boar's white tusk when he had gone to Parnassus to visit Autolycus, his mother's father, who was the best man on earth at lying and thieving, skills he had learned from Hermes. He had won the god's favor with choice burnt offerings of lambs and kids. Now, when she notices, she's ready to embrace him and say, oh my gosh, you're home. But Odysseus threatens her. He says, if you tell anyone, I will kill you. Okay? 476 to 509. Okay? That's right here. Sorry, we're still talking about the boars here. The sun was up now, rising from the damask waters of ocean. This is how he got this scar. And just striking the fields when the beaters came into a glade. The dogs were out front, tracking the scent of the boar. And behind the dogs came Autolycus, sons and noble Odysseus, his brandished spear casting a long shadow. Nearby a great boar was lying in his lair, a thicket that was proof against the wild, wet wind and could not be pierced by the rays of the sun, so dense it was. So he comes at Odysseus. Odysseus stood at bay right before them, and Odysseus rushed him, holding his spear high, eager to thrust. But the boar was too quick, slashing in. He got Odysseus in the thigh, right above the knee, his white tusk tearing a long gash into the muscle of your quadricep. That is painful. Just shy of the bone, and it's deep. Even so, Odysseus did not miss his mark, angling his spear into the boar's right shoulder. The gleaming point went all the way through, and with a loud grunt, the boar went down and gasped out his life. So Odysseus barely survives this whole thing. Eurycleia notices the scar. This was the scar that she recognized, and she starts to tremble, and her eyes fill with tears, and she says, "You are Odysseus." So this is an anagnoresis. He's revealed. "You are Odysseus, dear child. I did not know you until I laid my hands on my master's body." She spoke, and she was about to tell Penelope. Athena diverts Penelope's mind, so she's not paying attention. And Odysseus reached for the old woman's throat, seized it in his right hand, drawing her closer with the other. He said, Do you want to destroy me? You yourself nursed me at your own breast, and now after 20 hard years I've come back home. Now that some god has let you in on the secret, you keep it to yourself, you hear? If you don't, I'll tell you this, and I swear I'll do it. If with heaven's help I subdue the suitors, I will not spare you, even if you are my nurse, when I kill the other women in the hall. And of course, Eurycleia says, "Oh, your secret is safe with me. I won't say a word. I'll be absolutely quiet." But she does offer to list which of the servants are loyal and which should go on the list to die. After this little episode, Penelope describes a dream to the beggar Odysseus. He's disguised. And in her dream, she says there was an eagle flying out of the sky, and it killed 20 of her pet geese. The carcasses lay all over the hall, bloody guts everywhere, blood everywhere, these dead, broken neck geese. She describes it lines 585 to 607. She says, "But listen to a dream I had and tell me what it means. In my dream, I have 20 geese at home. I love to watch them come out of the water and eat grains of wheat. But a huge eagle with a hooked beak comes down from the mountain and breaks their necks, killing them all. They lie strewn through the hall, while he rides the wind up to the bright sky. I weep and wail, still in my dream, and Achaean ladies gather around me as I grieve because the eagle killed my geese. Then the eagle comes back and perches upon a jutting roof beam and speaks to me in a human voice, telling me not to cry. And the eagle says, 'This is no dream, but a true vision that you can trust. The geese are the suitors, and I, who was once an eagle, am now your husband come back, and I will deal out doom, a grisly death for all the suitors.'" And then she says, "What do you think that means?" And Odysseus says, I hope it's true, lady." He says, "Lady, there is no way to give this dream another slant. Odysseus himself has shown you how he will finish this business. The suitor's doom is clear. Not one will escape death's black birds." Now, Penelope says that she will propose a contest that Odysseus used to do, a little feat of strength, and she will marry any suitor that can do it. Two things. You have to string Odysseus's bow, and I'm going to attach some drawings of how difficult it is to string one of these bows that Odysseus had. Then you have to shoot an arrow through 12 axe heads. Now, there are different versions of how this thing would be done. And I'll attach pictures for that as well. It's very difficult. Not just through one hole, but through 12 axes, the holes of 12 axes. And it's very difficult. Odysseus, the beggar, loves this idea. He says, "Oh, that's great." He knows that no one else can do it. She goes to bed and weeps. She's crying until Athena puts her to sleep at the end here. Okay?